Most Americans don't even know this story because the mainstream media isn't covering it. I think we're the only ones on television covering it. Talk about your personal knowledge of this. You work in a hospital called Christ Hospital. Is that a religious hospital?
Yes, it's associated with the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America and United Church of Christ. And
they allow abortions?
I was very shocked to find out after this all started that they are pro-choice denominations.
All right, so they allow abortions to take place, and sometimes the abortions are not completed inside the mother's womb?
That is never the intent. The type of abortion that Christ Hospital performs and others is called induced labor abortion, or now known as live birth abortion. And the technique is done so that the baby will die during the birth process or soon after, but not necessarily in utero.
And when it doesn't work, the baby is born then. And that's the Infant Protection Act we're talking about, correct?
Right. What happens is the doctor or the resident inserts a pill into the birth canal up to the cervix, which is the opening at the bottom of the uterus, that causes this opening to open prematurely. And so the second or third trimester baby that is still very small, in essence, just falls out of the uterus once the cervix opens far enough. And that's how it comes to be that sometimes these babies are born alive.
And then what happens after they're born alive?
If they're born alive, the hospital only mandates that they get what's called comfort care, which is wrapping the baby in a blanket, offering the baby to the parents to hold, and if the parents don't want to hold the baby, then it is left to nursing staff to hold the baby or put the baby somewhere until the baby passes away. And that's where I became personally involved when a co-worker of mine was taking one of these babies, who was a Downs baby, who was aborted between 21 and 22 weeks alive, to the soiled utility room when she told me what she was doing, and I stepped in and said that I couldn't let this baby die alone, and I held him for the 45 minutes that it took for him to die.
I don't know, I really don't know what to say. How often does this happen?
I know the stats at Christ Hospital, and from 95 on, they've aborted between 11 and 26 times a year.
In this procedure?
Right.
When the baby's been born alive?
Right. About half I'm kind of aware of about 9 or 10 abortions this year, and about half the babies have lived, and each of those babies has lived between an hour and a half and 3 hours just this year alone. I know that one baby in particular has lived almost as long as an 8-hour shift. The soiled utility room is where nursing staff takes our biohazardous material, our soiled linens, and it also has a urinal in it. That's where nursing staff took these babies and left them to die.
I actually wasn't talking about abortion. Yes, we have differences on abortion that are deep and profound. I think they're terribly important. But Barack Obama defended infanticide, the killing of fully born infants who had survived a failed abortion attempt and were then left for hours in soiled linen baskets to die.
My name is Jill Stanek, and I'm a registered nurse who witnessed babies being delivered alive and left out to die. And because of my experience, I was asked to testify on the national level before a U.S. House committee and on various state committees. Christ Hospital, and we now know other hospitals and abortion clinics around the country, are involved in an abortion procedure called induced labor abortion. And for this method of abortion, the abortionist inserts a medication into the birth canal of the mom and induced premature labor. And my experience was that they lived as short as a few minutes to once almost as long as an 8-hour shift. To be clear, these were living babies who were left out to die, and they were issued both birth and death certificates according to Illinois state law. One night, a nursing co-worker was taking a live aborted baby to our soiled utility room to die because his parents didn't want to hold him, and she didn't have time to hold him that night. And when she told me what she was doing, I couldn't bear the thought of this suffering child dying alone. And so I cradled and rocked him for the 45 minutes that he lived. He had Down syndrome and was between 21 and 22 weeks old. And he didn't move very much because he was using all of his energy attempting to breathe. And I remember toward the end of his life, I couldn't tell if he was alive or not unless I held him up against the light to see if I could see his little heart beating through his chest wall because their skin is so thin at that age. And after he was pronounced dead, we folded his little arms across his chest. We tied them together with a little string, and I wrapped him in a shroud and took him to the morgue where we took all of our other dead patients.
Steve and Pam will tell you that we fought together in the Illinois State Senate against restricted choice legislation, laws just like the federal abortion laws.
When I testified before an Illinois State Senate committee about my experience, Barack Obama was unmoved and actually opposed the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, which was legislation designed to stop this barbaric practice of leaving delivered babies out to die. Barack Obama says that he's all about change and forging a new path. Well, he sure did forge a new one, because on the federal level, this legislation passed unanimously, 98-0. Every Democrat in the U.S. Senate supported this, from Clinton to Kerry to Kennedy to Boxer, and even the pro-abortion group NARAL went neutral on this bill. But this one guy, Barack Obama, thought that infanticide was acceptable and voted to protect it. Some people have said that Barack Obama was uninformed or may not have fully understood the implications of this bill, but he voted against it 3 times. That's calculated. He himself has defended his vote by saying that he would have voted for it had it been identically worded as a federal bill. But as chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee in 2003, he stopped the identical wording from being introduced. Barack Obama can play word games, but at the end of the day, his opposition was responsible for living babies being left out to die. And that is indefensible.
It is time for a different attitude in the White House. It is time for a different attitude in the Supreme Court. It is time to turn the page and write a new chapter in American history.
I am questioning his judgment. I am questioning his judgment.
It shows an extreme position on abortion. It's essentially infanticide. And also because if he lied about it and he's covered it up over the 4 years, and then he accused those who found out of being liars, it gets to him on the character issue.
They have not been telling the truth. And, you know, I hate to say that people are lying, but here's a situation where folks are lying. So for people to suggest that I and the Illinois Medical Society, so Illinois' doctors, were somehow in favor of withholding life-saving support from an infant born alive is ridiculous. It defies common sense and it defies imagination.
He's calling the pro-lifers liars because they, and it turns out they're not liars. They said correctly that he voted against a bill while in the Illinois legislature that would have protected born-alive infants that were born as a result of botched abortions. He voted against that bill.
What point is a baby entitled to human rights?
At the moment of conception.
I think that whether you're looking at it from a theological perspective or a scientific perspective, answering that question with specificity, is above my pay grade.